Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joyce and Ivan Dychko, the two prospects who were both medalists at the 2016 Rio Olympics, and Dychko also medaled in London. They have made this month's ranking updates. So Joyce sneaks into the WBC rankings, and Dychko, surprisingly, given that he hasn't fought since 2018, mid-2018, he is now number 15 in the WBA. So we'll go through these ranking updates really quickly. So we'll start with the WBC first. So Dillian Whyte, he remains number 1. And actually the first about half a dozen to 8 names, they are pretty much, it's a sort of operation normal here. No change from last month. Tyson Fury, even in spite of him turning down that fight with Deontay Wilder, which had been ordered, he has faced no sanctions in the rankings. Luis Ortiz, he is at 3. Dominic Breazeale, who will be facing Deontay Wilder on May 18th at the Barclays Center in New York, he remains number 4. It's always been a strange situation. He's the mandatory challenger and he's in 4th position. It's weird. Adam Kovnatsky, he remains at 5. Joseph Parker at 6. Parker has no fight scheduled, neither does Kovnatsky, and at the moment neither does Alexander Povetkin. He is at 7. So we'll have to see what Povetkin does, because it looked for all money that he was going to fight Alexander Usyk, but no, he has opted not to take that fight at this point, potentially going to fight the Ukrainian later this year. So Povetkin, will he fight someone like a Dillian Whyte or a Michael Hunter mid-year? We will have to see. Ajit Kabayel, the European champion, he's at number 8. Kubrat Pulev remains at 9. Oscar Rivas at 10, and actually it's the same 10, just looking at month on month here. Derek Chisora, somehow he has leapt up 2 places from last month, and often these sorts of things happen, and it's hard to understand why, because his last fight was in December and it was a knockout loss. Tony Yoka, who's at 12, similarly, he is in these rankings despite not having fought for some considerable period. He's been serving a 1-year ban. He will be eligible to return to the ring in France about mid-year. Charles Martin, he is up 1 place this month to 13th. Carlos Takam, he is in at 14. He drops 3 places. And Joyce sneaks into the WBC rankings at 15. I believe this is the first time that Joyce has been ranked by the WBC. He replaces Sergey Kuzmin, who drops out of the rankings altogether. And this is actually, and it's going to sound a bit weird here, Joyce's only current ranking. And you might be thinking, well, what about the WBA? Well, he's not actually in the WBA rankings anymore. He's actually above the WBA rankings according to the WBA as the gold title holder. Although the WBC must not recognize that belt to any extent, because otherwise it wouldn't have ranked him here at number 15. So that's a bit of an oddity. So Joyce, 15th here in the WBC rankings, but the gold holder in the WBA. And we will now come to the WBA rankings. At number 1, you have the interim champion, Trevor Bryan. And isn't that a strange situation? He's the interim world champion, but he's not above the rankings, as is Joyce, the gold belt holder, as is Manuel Charr, the regular title holder, and then you have super champion Anthony Joshua, who many recognize as the legitimate champion, but the WBA has 4 champions currently. At number 2, Jarrell Miller, who will face Joshua in June, is at 2, as I said. Fraser Kendo remains at number 3, and this is really bizarre. Didn't take that fight with Manuel Charr as he was ordered to do so. That fight should have happened by now, but he retains his place in the queue. So what is going to happen here with Fraser Kendo? Because I was waiting for the latest update to see, would he actually be dropped out? Because if he's not going to be signing on to fight Charr, what's he actually doing? He's owed a title shot. Are they going to have to pay him to get him out of the rankings or something? It's already a very bizarre situation. Won that court action a few years ago now. He has been ranked. The fight for a title which he was owed has never happened. Was due to fight Charr on a number of occasions now. The most recent, he was ordered to face him in March, and it never happened. So Fraser Kendo, yeah, it's a really bizarre and quizzical situation. And when I posted the latest rankings on my Twitter account, someone actually came back and said he should be awarded the Eternity Belt, which would mean that he would forever and a day be ranked at number 3 in the WBA rankings. And I quite like that idea because it kind of seems like that's the case already. So Dillian Whyte, he remains at number 4. Otto Wallin, Oscar Rivas and Sergey Kuzmin, Filip Hrgovic, Alexander Povetkin, that's 5 through 9. They are all the same this month. Moving to 10th, 11th and 12th spot, all the same again, Kyotaru Fujimoto at 10, Andy Ruiz Jr., who's got a fight coming up, he is out at 11th, and Michael Hunter, where there's been talk of him facing Alexander Povetkin, he remains at 12. It would be good to see Hunter back in the ring soon. He had those couple of sort of fights to announce himself to the heavyweight division late in 2018, and it feels like it's been a bit of a long time between drinks for a Michael Hunter fight. So obviously his team is looking for the right fight for him at this stage in his career. He's a contender on the rise, and they don't want to necessarily sort of put him into a fight where he sort of comes undone. So I think there is some careful matchmaking at play here, and obviously he likes the Povetkin fight. He's spoken about that publicly a number of times now. At 13 you have Adam Kovnatsky, and at 14, and this is another bizarre situation, Bogdan Dinu. So he's been knocked out in his most recent 2 fights. One was against Kubrat Pulev, that was just a couple of weeks ago, and also before that you had Jarrell Miller back in November 2017. So why I think it's bizarre is, if he's had a couple of knockout losses, and before that he hadn't fought for 18 months, or his the last fight before these 2 fights is 18 months ago, how is he still ranked? I mean, I just can't work it out. Really, after 1 knockout loss, given he was at the tail of the end of the rankings and has been for quite some time, surely he should have been dropped. But after 2, I would have thought it would have just been, a case of, you're gone, buddy, but apparently not. And at number 15, and this is another sort of WBA head-scratcher, although I like the guy and I like the talent that Ivan Dychko has, the Kazakh fighter is in at number 15th spot in the latest WBA rankings. He has not fought since July 2018, and there is no fight on the horizon at the moment by the looks of it. There had been some talk of a couple of opponents and that sort of thing, but nothing had materialized, and yeah, he hasn't fought for the best part of 8-9 months now. Even before then, when he was fighting, it was pretty low-level opposition. So the fact that he's worked his way into the WBA rankings here kind of tells you, to some extent, all you need to know about the rankings process, that if you're paying your money and all that sort of stuff, if a promoter has influence with the sanctioning body, that can go a long way. And these rankings sort of scream of it with some of the inclusions here. I mean, Dinu and Dychko, I think they are probably the best examples. So Dychko, he comes in, replaces Dylan Carmen, who recently lost to Yevgeny Romanov. Anyway, what do you make of it all? Ivan Dychko appears in the WBA rankings, hasn't fought since July 2018. Joyce, who recently beat Berman Stavern, he makes his first appearance in the WBC rankings at 15, squeaks in along with Dychko in the WBA. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.